Greetings,
Greetings,
Carol. How are you
greetings,
doing?
greetings, greetings. I am doing well, but I am so not camera ready. And I had almost forgotten, but I'm here.
That counts for something. You're here. Could you all hear the music?
Yes, it's beautiful,
Okay,
very relaxing.
good. And did you see the screen?
I did
Okay.
the chakras and the yoga pose.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic.
And I found my book.
Good, good, good. And tonight is going to be probably brief because we're just going through the introduction. I want to make sure everybody's able to get here and get in, and we'll go over the house rules.
Okay, and you'll have to send me the recording every second and fourth Tuesday because I'll be missing in action.
Okay. Well, it'll be on the website. I'm going to give the password
Great.
tonight, and
Wonderful.
everybody will be able to go at your leisure and look it up whenever you're able to.
Wonderful.
Now there's only, let's see, only 5 people registered, so only 2 people are missing. Trying to remember, I know Mary Patterson registered. Oh, she's looking for her link. And this is the only time I'm gonna start kind of late. I'm waiting for everybody because we getting our tech together and people are still figuring out where the link went that got sent to them and all that good jazz. So, but in future I will be starting on time. Plan to start at 7:02.
Okay.
And Brother Harold, what is happening? Is your camera right up against your face, or what's happening? I can see light around the edge. Oh, you covered up your camera, huh? Can you hear me, Brother Harold? Let's see, she's having trouble getting in. No, you gotta have to go to the new link that was sent this afternoon. Okay, sister's trying to get in. Okay. Well, while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and get started and discuss the format of the class. I'm sorry that light is behind me, but I'll discuss the format of the class. We will open with an exercise every week. The exercises are designed to help open our psychic centers, our psychic energy, and it allows us to more ably be the mystics we were born to be. What we've discovered in the last class we went through, and I have to find another word to call this other than a class, because I'm not really teaching. I'm sharing what I know, but I can't, I'm not really qualified to teach you all how to be a mystic. I'm sharing information from other mystics, and I'm learning with you. So I really want everyone who is participating to share your experiences, share your knowledge, so that we all learn from each other. But this is allowing us to be who we were born to be. We were born with this kind of power, and we kind of got dumbed down because our parents didn't know they were born with this power, so they didn't know how to encourage it in us, and they didn't know how to foster it and teach it and help us to be the powerful beings we are. So the whole point is to get us back to being who we were born to be, those powerful individuals. We'll go through the chapters together. I read segments from the chapter because sometimes we haven't had a chance to read, or we haven't gotten our books, or we've misplaced our books. So I'll be reading some of the information from the chapters, and I'll make certain points that seemed important to me. And I encourage you all to make comments as we go, ask questions as we go, and feel free to speak up, spark up conversation, and because that's how we're going to be learning. And as I said, this is a forum. It's not really a class, and I'm learning too. And I'm looking forward to learning from you all. The classes are being recorded so that those of us who are registered can go back and listen to them. If you happen to miss a class, like Sister Yabode or Norma, as it says on the screen, was saying that she won't be here every other Tuesday. So we can go back and listen to the recordings. This is a confidential place, so you can share your experiences freely, share your knowledge freely. And I know there are times when we've all had mystical experiences, but we don't always feel free to share those with other people, because sometimes people look at you like you're kind of crazy, like, what in the world are you talking about? What? So this is a safe space to share those experiences. So I'm asking that you keep it confidential. Don't share it outside of the group, but feel free to invite people to register to become part of the group. Not just that they're coming for one time so they can hear what we're talking about and go back out and share it abroad, but if they're serious, you think they're serious about learning and growing, then invite them, please, to come be a part of what we're doing. And if you have something to write with, feel free to write down the password. Excuse me. It's lowercase I, lowercase a, lowercase m, capital L, liberated. So I am liberated with a capital L and an exclamation point at the end. And I'll email this out to you all so that you'll have it also. Let's see. Okay, I said feel free to invite people. Any questions or comments so far? Okay. Okay, I'd like to share a little bit about me so you know who I am. I know I don't believe I've met Ruth Davis, and I know Brother Harold, but I don't know that you know this about me. So I was raised Christian. I wasn't raised in the church. My father was military, so we spent some time overseas, and I had an opportunity to be exposed to Buddhism, and not really to learn how Buddhism worked, but we saw the monks every day, and we were required to take, in Thailand, we were required to take Thai culture classes. So I did learn about the culture, and I learned how Buddhism tied into the culture. So I learned a little bit about Buddhism. Then when I got older, in my later teenage years, is when I really started getting into Christianity, and I started going to church. I knew about Christianity, of course. My parents were raised Baptist. They're from the South. They were raised Baptist. So it was kind of a given that we were Christians. And as I studied, I got deeply into the study of Christianity. And I started to see in Christianity, first of all, I saw that, dude was bad. This brother Yeshua was like, I want to be like him when I grow up, just watching him do what he do. He could walk on water. He could heal people. He could, he could, when they were chasing him, they were going to stone him and he just disappeared. I said, what? And they didn't talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, they talked about the healing, but they didn't teach us how to do it. And they didn't even talk about the disappearing act and walking through walls. And, they never even approached anything like, you could actually do this in the church where I was. They might have been talking about it somewhere, but they weren't talking about it in my church. So as I was reading the Bible and I started reading, I saw karma, what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. I said, okay. I saw a scripture that led me to believe reincarnation was real. They asked him, Yeshua asked his disciples, who they say I am. Well, some people say you're Elijah. Some people say you're this prophet, that prophet. And I thought, well, he doesn't correct them when they ask that. So was reincarnation a thing? But I dared not. By this time, I was old enough not to even ask anybody in the church, hey, what about reincarnation? Because it says right here, I didn't even bother. It's like, why even do that? But there were certain things that I saw that I just questioned. And it wasn't that I questioned Christianity. I questioned how they taught it. I questioned how narrow it was, how limited the teachings were in the church. So it wasn't Christianity I questioned, it was the church I questioned. So I started studying on my own, and I studied not real deeply, because even though I had the courage to ask the question, I felt God was big enough. I still, I was still a Christian, so there was still that in the back of my mind. Okay, how deep do you go asking questions about other stuff, studying other stuff? Because they had made it pretty clear that you would go to hell if you weren't one of us. So I read and I lightly studied. I didn't really get deep into other studies until much later in my life, but I've picked up what I can along the way. And I'm an ordained minister, Christian minister. And that didn't change my view any. It didn't make me think. As a matter of fact, it strengthened my questions when I went through seminary, because in seminary I learned that a lot of the proverbs were taken from the Nag Hammadi library, which was actually a combination of a lot of writings of a lot of African people. And I thought, okay, well, wait a minute, they never told me that in church. So, the seminary, my pastor even said after I got out, I'm surprised you're still a Christian. Because he knew, he had been through seminary, he knows what kind of stuff they were teaching. So I managed to hold it together because I still believe in Yeshua. I still believe it, because he wasn't trying to start a new religion. He was trying to teach us to be the holiest and to live in the power we were born to live. He was teaching his disciples to actually step up out of living in physicality all the time. So that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to share with people. And that's why we're here. And the book we're using this time is Beyond Liberation by Michael Beckwith, who is a modern day mystic. He has studied mysticism. He has taught mysticism, and he has some exercises in the book. So each time we get started, we'll start with an exercise. I'm a Reiki master, and in Reiki, the most Asian cultures and some African cultures, when they're called a master, it just means you know the material enough to teach it. You are a teacher. So I'm a Reiki master. Reiki is a form of healing. So we maybe do Reiki exercises, and then the exercises are to, again, wake our psychic centers, to wake us up in a way that we haven't been typically in our lives, so that we're we don't, it's like, what was the thing I heard? You don't wait until it's raining to build the ark. So what we're doing is working on ourselves, so that if you come across somebody who needs healing, if you come across someone who needs something more, or if you have a need for prayer, you recognize that you do not have to beg an entity that's so far away from you. The creator is inside us. Spirit lives inside us. So we don't have to beg anybody outside for the healing we need. But again, that's part of the teaching. That's part of what we'll cover. Let me see, anything else? Okay, I think that's it for me. Does anyone have any questions or anything you want to share at this point before we get into the book? No.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you now.
Okay. Just so many of the things you were saying, Dr. J, it just made me look back over my life, because I was brought up full Christian in the Christian church. My daddy was a Baptist pastor. And like you were saying, the question, it's just something, like, okay, we talk about being saved and all, but after I'm saved, what's next? It's got to be more to just saying, okay, I've accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and your soul stays the same. You have the same thoughts, you have the same physical appetites, you have, none of that has changed. And again, you better be careful. I had to be careful who I asked, because the people I knew, if you were to ask a question in any way that seemed to question what they were teaching and the point they were teaching, oh, you were not able to raise your head in that church. You had to go to the altar to be prayed for, because you had a demonic spirit within you. So by keeping quiet, but at the same time knowing there's got to be more, because nothing is changing. My life is still the same. I'm doing the same things. I want to do the same things. Nobody is talking about evolving as a spiritual being. Nobody is talking about the salvation of the soul. Nobody is talking about anything, but it's like, once you get to the point where you say, the Lord Jesus Christ, you've arrived, and that's it. You're at the limit. But it was just something more. And going through life asking the question, which I never heard it out of all the revivals that I went to, out of all the different Baptist preachers I've never heard anybody talk about soul salvation. It was always get Jesus and you got it all. But we're not, and I never saw anybody in the church doing the things that Jesus was doing. I never saw anybody in the church living a life where they really said, or they really could show by their lifestyle, that I'm a believer and that I'm following in the footsteps of Jesus. So it's been that journey, just knowing it's more. This man is awesome, but I don't see awesomeness in many places. So this journey has really been a liberating one for me.
Right. I got you. Yeah. And it's, the journey has been similar for a lot of people I know, but
including me.
Yeah.
Including me. It's, I'm just listening and saying, yeah, I remember. And that, I was born and raised in the Baptist church, and it's been a journey of expansion for me, expanding my concept of who God is, and a more inclusionary concept of who God is. It is Michael Bernard Beckwith has been one of my teachers over the years, along with Iyanla Van Zandt, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow with other folk who are willing to learn and grow. So thank you, Reverend J.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad you all showed up. Because I know a lot of people who have these kinds of questions and they didn't register. And I think some people were of the mindset that they've learned a lot over the years. So, how are you going to teach me? It's not necessarily about, like I said, teaching, but to be able to get with a group of people who actually think similarly to the way you think is priceless. So, that's a part of the reason we're here, and to be able to explore what someone bothered to actually put it in a book, that we can actually, progress further. And it's okay to have the questions. It's okay to look and maybe even get some of those questions answered. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Harold, Sister Ruth, you want to make a comment, ask a question? I see you unmuted, Ruth. I can't hear you though. Okay, you muted back. I don't know if are you trying to say something? Feel free to put it in the chat too. If you're trying to say something and we can't hear you, I can't hear you anyway. So if you want to say something and we can't hear you, put it in the chat. Okay, if you're trying to say something, we still can't hear you. I'm not the only one who can't hear her, right?
Right, I can't either.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I started out saying that we'll start, we started kind of late because I went over the house rules and that information, but we will be starting at about 7:02 each evening because I really want to respect everybody's time. At the same time, I want to give you time to get here. So, you have 2 minutes leeway. We go from 7 to 9, but we're not necessarily going to be here until 9 every single night. We're going through a chapter a night each Tuesday when we get together. And tonight we'll probably get finished pretty early because we're just going through the introduction. And that gives us time so that if you know of anybody else who you think may want to join us, they won't have missed very much by the time they get registered and come next week. But let me see. And I also I mentioned that I want to start with an exercise. So we're starting with an exercise from a book called Wisdom of the Mystic Masters. That's the book we studied last time. And I'll read you the information, read you what you need to do to do the exercise properly. Let me see, it's on page 49. I don't think I got the right page. Okay. So we're sitting in a place where we're free from interruption, hopefully. This will take less than 5 minutes. So we sit in a straight back chair with our feet touching, but not crossed. So our feet are touching each other, but not crossed. And allow your hands to rest in your lap easily and sit relaxed, but with your back straight and your head erect. Breathe easily and naturally. Close your eyes and think of the color blue. Any shade of blue, from the pale blue, which is nearly white, all the way down the scale to the deep purple. Think of just one shade and let your mind stay focused on that one shade and see it all around you. See it fill the entire room. And we'll take 1 minute to stay focused on this one color blue. If your mind starts wandering, get your color back and refocus on blue. Okay, now focus on the color pink. Any shade of pink you want, but think of the color pink and let it fill the whole space around you. Everything around you is the color pink. If your mind starts to wander, come back to the color pink. Now focus on the color white, the pure white that's crystalline in its brilliance. And surround yourself with that color white all around you. And let yourself come back. This is a simple exercise in concentration. And most people, because everything is moving so fast and we're exposed to so much internet, YouTube, everything is moving fast, fast, fast all the time. We have difficulty focusing and concentrating our attention for 1 minute at a time. We only went 1 minute for each color. So that's just an exercise you can use to focus your attention. Hey, Brother Harold, I can see your face. Good to see you. You're muted. I can't hear you talking. Okay. All right. And we're starting with the introduction, as I said. I'm going to read the first paragraph just so we get an idea of where we're going. It says, this book you hold in your hands is not just another self-help book telling you how to get more of what you think you need to be happy and anti-bored until you die. Its purpose is to stir you up, to ignite within you a desire to establish a transformative spiritual practice, and to show how to cultivate and sustain that spiritual practice. The spiritual strategies described in this book will shift your dependence on the outer things of life to make you happy, to rely on your own inner authority as a fully empowered being. That's where we're heading. Wouldn't it be amazing to just wake up one morning knowing you can walk on water? Anyway, there's on page, what is that? 16 in Roman numerals. It says, this book addresses some of the most fundamental questions about the process of waking up. What is the nature of this great something we call God, and what is our relationship to it? What do we perceive of those who are here? What do we perceive as the nature of what we call God? What's God's nature to us?
Divine order, divine light, divine love, divine peace, divine joy.
Okay. Great. Anyone else?
And add to that compassion, forgiveness, patience, faithfulness.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, and we'll get into. I don't have an answer. We'll get into some more. We'll talk about that more as we go. And he also asked, what does it mean to become enlightened? So what does that mean for us?
For me, it means we are souls living in an incarnate body, and that God has given us everything we need to do what we need to do, to be who he made us to be. And when we realize that there's only one of us, only nobody can do anything the way we do it, nobody has the same journey that we have, we are different, and we're enlightened when we can embrace who we are, not in regards to how other people think we should be or how the standards set, but knowing that our power and who we are is a God-given gift, and we're totally different, and our journey is our own, and we shouldn't want to be or try to be a copycat or be like anybody else. Just learn who you are and be you, because there's not another you on this earth.
Okay. Sister Yabode.
Yeah, for me, I think it's also what Sister Mary said. It's it's a full acceptance of your divinity, your uniqueness, and also recognizing your oneness with everyone else that is, and recognizing their divinity as well, and your oneness with not only other humans but with everything else that has been created. The earth, the blades of grass, the birds, that saying, you're being a part of this wonderful creation and feeling your oneness with it, and not wanting to do anything to anything or anyone that you wouldn't want done to you.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Brother Harold, Sister Ruth. It's not a requirement. I'm just asking. Sister Ruth. I still can't hear you. What's happening? I don't even know how to tell you to fix that, because I'm so sad. I would love to hear you. Type in the chat to let me know you can hear it. Okay, okay, maybe she's gonna try again. Okay. Brother Harold, did you want to give a comment? I take it because you're staying muted, you're saying no. Is that what's happening? Okay. Okay, he also asked, What are the marks of a spiritually evolved person? How may we cultivate our talents and skills creatively, meaningfully express them? He goes on to say, today's consciousness research and quantum physics reveal that consciousness interpenetrates all that is, affirming that existence is not random, that it's intentional and governed by universal law. To that, I add love, says Michael Beckwith. We are governed by law and love. There is no absolute definition of God or love. They are synonymously indefinable. And well, he goes on to say, however, we intrinsically know when we experience a burst of realization or sense of presence that can only be called God or love. So all of us have probably had some experience at some point where we knew there was this was like supernatural. There was something else going on besides what we ourselves as humans could bring about, even if it was just being in love with somebody for the first time, experiencing that and knowing, oh wow, this is great, I love this. Even that is a part of that experience of what God is. When you learn to love someone, when you feel love, you just kind of take it for granted with your parents because you come up with that one, that when you live that one the whole time. But when you get that outside person and you start to love someone else and you experience love, the in love thing, that's one of those experiences where it helps you recognize who God is. Sister Ruth, let's see if we can hear you now. No, I still can't hear you. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad about that. I would love to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we hear you. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, I have to go in and change my settings, my audio settings.
Okay.
All righty then. How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
I am wonderfully well, thank you. And I would do video, but I'm not really prepared for that tonight. The next night, I perhaps will. But I just want to introduce myself. I was born Christian. I know you've gotten into the book, but I just want to give you a little background.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was born Christian in Alabama. Miss Mary Temple knows that. But anyway, in the late 80s, I joined a non-denominational church, Hillside International Truth Center here in Atlanta, and started studying truth, which was a more motivating, more innovative, more truth-telling to my soul in terms of what being a Christian or having a relationship with God and Jesus, those kinds of things. I feel that with Hillside, I get a lot more, I guess, ambience in terms of the energy that is stirring within my soul and how I relate to other people, and not being fearful that if I do something wrong, I'm going to hell. Instead, I'm told that, we all err. That's okay. Just turn it around, change that perspective, and go ahead and do what you know that God intended for you to do. Because whatever we need is within our spirit and our soul. So everything is there. We just have to tap into it. Right. And now that's that. We'll go back to the book.
Okay. Well, thank
Ruth,
you.
I love Hillside. If I'm in Atlanta, I'm on the Hill.
Oh, really?
I love it. Oh boy, my daughter went to Spelman, so I've been visiting Hillside off and on since the 90s.
Oh, how about that? Did you come up with Dr. Beckwith? Are you part of his?
That might be where I got my book autographed. I don't know if it was there or Unity in Atlanta, North Atlanta. But anyway, my book is autographed, and I didn't even remember that until tonight when I opened it up.
Yeah, okay. We did have his books in the bookstore at one time. But that's a long time ago too.
Yeah, because the book is pretty old too. Yeah, it's almost
it is.
Yeah,
2008 is the publication date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's wow. He is his location has moved and grown, and his church is huge now. They're a beautiful, huge edifice in Beverly Hills now. Okay, but getting back to the book, on page Roman numerals, I tell you, 17, it says, spiritual liberation is the result of having discarded a materialistic worldview and replaced it with the realization that a committed spiritual practice illuminates and clarifies our purpose on the planet. So it's through this having our own spiritual practice that we start to develop and start to get in touch with why we're actually here. So many, I think a lot of the problem with a lot of the people who are violent and who are well, violent. I was because there are different levels of violence, but I think a lot of people who are violent because they don't know their purpose. They aren't able to communicate. And when I say communicate, they aren't able to communicate with themselves. They aren't able to communicate with a creator. They aren't able to communicate with nature, with our very nature. So when I say communication, it's a lot broader than just talking. And I actually had a friend once who was telling me, and that was like one big dot I connected. He was telling me that the girlfriend he had years before that, he used to push her around. And he said the reason he started pushing her was that he didn't know how to communicate. He just didn't, and she would say things to shut him down. And when she said things to shut him down, he would push her. I thought, wow, what a revelation that is. That seems to be the problem with all the wars we've had. There was a lack of communication. People didn't know how to communicate with one another. And so when we aren't able to communicate with spirit and get connected on a spiritual level, we aren't able to know what our purpose is on the planet. And we get lost, we get confused, and we want to lean toward violence, whether it's the violence of greed, the violence of destroying the earth to try to get resources because we're living in a place of lack. I think it all starts with some lack of communication. Further on this page, he says, he describes what is in this book. In the first chapter of this book, Love Beauty, my accent is on the beginnings of my spiritual opening, which I hope will provide readers as a basis of understanding where I'm coming from. The next 6 chapters describe my core teachings. Beginning with the 7th chapter and throughout the rest of the book, I offer practical tools that are applicable to spiritual aspirants at all levels of practice. So he actually does have some exercises we can do. At the end of each chapter, I have included an affirmation that grounds the principles covered in the text, as well as the embodiment that you may wish to include during your meditation, prayer, or contemplative times. So these embodiments are like prayers, the way he has them written up. And we're talking, the conversation becomes directly with spirit at that point. He says there are terms he uses when teaching. For clarity's sake, definitions follow. Heaven, for example, is not a location. We're in heaven when we live in an inner realization of ever expanding good that exists throughout the cosmos. And that kind of grabbed me when I read in the Bible. He said, heaven is among you. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, wait, what? Heaven's right here, right now. Well, why they keep saying we're going to heaven when we die? I was confused. Yeah, so he says, the fundamental goodness of the universe is a description of the fact that we live in a friendly universe that has been intentionally designed to foster our awakening. It is not against us, it is for us. And when you start looking at, when you change your perspective and start looking at life as for you instead of against you, it changes everything. That is the game changer right there. When you really start looking at even the mistakes, even the things that hurt us, even the things that are dreadful. I work with a group of people who are supportive of family members of children who have been murdered. And even looking at them, I know it's hard to hear that this is an event that took place for your growth. Perhaps even the fact that this child's life ended because it was time. You know, my sister has always said, there's no such thing as an untimely death. And, you know, of course, when I first heard her, I was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, girl, because at 6 years old, that's untimely. But maybe it's not. You know, I've actually heard children who have diseases, the child themselves, not their parents, because the parents usually can't wrap their heads around it, but the child themselves, the child, him or herself, has actually said, I've done what I came to do. I finished what I'm here for. To hear a baby say that's a level of spiritual maturity that's just beyond where most of us ever go. Sister Yabode.
Yeah, I'm just reminded of the young man. I think his name was Matty Stepanek. He was on Oprah show a lot. He was confined to a wheelchair. He had a rare disorder. He died very young, but he had such an impact, and his outlook on life was so free and so beautiful. So as you were talking, I'm reminded of him, right, and other young people like him who have just given so much in such a short time.
Right, exactly. And I used to watch these telethons, not only Jerry Lewis, but there the one for abused children. I used to watch that a lot, but I used to watch telethons. I don't know how I got sucked into that, but you know, just watching these children, so many of them seem so elevated, you know, and they like you're saying, they've achieved so much in so little time that they recognize their purpose here. They recognize that this time that they have is it. And there's nothing untimely about their making transition. They did what they came here to do. And that's hard for most of us to hear. He goes on to say, our authentic self is our inherently enlightened state, what the Buddhists call our original face, and Christians define as soul. So when we get in touch with our authentic self, that's when we're actually able to see those truths. Later on, he says, in this book, transformation is that which occurs when identification with the egoic self is superseded by a conscious realization of the authentic self. That some chapters contain brief references to the life visioning process, or simply visioning, which is a spiritual practice I originated when founding the Agape International Spiritual Center. And he draws a distinction between visioning and visualization. To me, the difference is really, really small, but he'll talk about visioning later in the chapters. He goes on to say, this book not only conveys a message to you, it will also elicit from you insights into your own true nature and purpose. Your existence as a unique and precious being is deeply and enduringly known by your inner self. It is my conviction that we have not only the capacity, but also the mandate to consciously participate in an evolutionary process that introduces us to the authentic self. My part has been to design a guide that you may use to enter this deeper dimension of being. An enlightened society can only be created by awakened beings. And that's us, people. That's us. We the ones. We the ones to take the truth and go on out there and share it. That's us. Well, that's actually the end of the introduction. So any questions, comments? I'm not going to keep you longer than we have to just to be staying on, but do you have any questions, comments that you'd like to share?
I'm just looking forward to taking this journey and revisiting Spiritual Liberation, because I have not read it in well over 10 years. So I'm looking forward to experiencing this with you all.
Ashe. Ashe. Anyone else? Brother Harold. Oh, Sister Ruth. Go ahead.
I'm excited about the journey. A different perspective. I'm familiar with Dr. Beckwith work, and I know he has just energized himself to so many higher levels. Like you say, he's a mystic. So I'm just like, like Norma, is it? Norma said?
Yes.
Yes, hi Norma. It's a journey that hopefully will enlighten us more and energize that longingness to be more, to do more,
yes,
to evolve, and to become the best of who we were created to be. So I'm excited about it. And I would like to be able to attend every Tuesday night. I may not be able to, but I'm going to do my best to make as many of them as I can.
Ashe, I hope you can. And as I was explaining, I don't know if you were here, but we're recording, and it's for our own confidential use. And I will make sure you all get the password so you can go to the website. Oh, let me put the website in the chat too. So you can go to the website and look at, you'll be able to listen to the recordings. Did you want to say something, Mary or Harold?
Oh, just as the two ladies have said, it's this journey to spiritual awakening, to spiritual liberation is one I'm excited about. And Dr. J, it's just wonderful to have found a group of people where you can express yourself, your true self, and not feel that you're being judged because you don't meet somebody else's standard. And by the way, Ruth Davis and I have known each other since 5th grade. We went to school together, got classmates, graduated from the same high school.
Wow.
God, we did.
What high school might that have been?
Deborah Kettle Wolf High School.
Okay, well, y'all right down the road. I'm Tuskegee Institute High School, class of 72. We're getting ready to celebrate our 50th class reunion this year.
Oh, we got you beat by 6 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations, y'all. That is fantastic. I mean, congratulations on knowing each other since 5th grade, and congratulations on 50 years since high school. Yabade.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Brother Harold, did you want to give a closing comment before we go? At least let us hear your voice one time. Say peace out or something. It's not a requirement. I won't give you a bad grade if you don't say something. Okay, well,
Dr. J, before we
yes, ma'am.
go,
Mm-hmm.
one of the other names I sent you, Helen Wood, Helen Larkin. I talked with her a little earlier, and she said she hadn't received it. I don't know whether I asked her, did she check her email? So she said yes, and she didn't see it. So I'll just check back and see, because she was really interested, and I hate she wasn't on tonight.
Okay. I'll send, well, the invitation I sent to you, send her the invitation, and that way she
Okay.
can go from there. Because you can
Okay.
send it yeah, because you can send it on your phone. Because maybe I got the email address wrong or something. I don't know.
Okay, I'll send it to her. All right.
Okay. Okay. And all of you, feel free that if you know of anybody that might be interested, feel free to send them the invitation, especially now that you know about what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it. Feel free to send it. And if they want to join us next week, feel free to join. I'm looking forward to the journey with you all.
Right. Well, I'll see you all week after next, but I will listen to next week's recording.
Okay. All right, people. It's been good. I
Peace and
appreciate you all.
blessings. Yes.
Have
Peace
a good
and
night.
blessings to all.
Peace and
Good night.
blessings. Thank you. Good night.